And that's us live. Hello, everyone. This is the After Party After Show Open Room, 420 Atheist, and Randolph Richardson. How are you guys doing?
Good. It's early morning for me here.
Open Room, 420 Atheist.
Yeah.
And Randolph Richardson. How are you guys doing?
Really good.
Randolph, I think we got we got an echo emanating from you, Mr. Richardson.
I apologize. I had the stream on in the background.
Okay, all right. Well, I've done it myself on my own show.
I tried, but I'm up early today. It's 0700 here. I got up an hour ago and found your show, and what a delight.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad that you're here. I think Tobin he's trying to come in, Tobin. And
oh, great.
Tobin.
Good
What's
to
up?
see you again.
Good. Yeah, I've been up since 5:30, maybe, and that's about the normal time for me to. And this is not by choice. This is not by choice at all.
I've been trying to change my schedule, so I'm sleeping earlier and waking up earlier. I kind of like seeing the sunrise first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. So, do you sleep at all, Sammy?
I somewhat sleep. Very broken. When I do sleep, I have a 5-year-old next to me who has special needs. His mum's in his bed with our newborn baby, so she doesn't really get much sleep at the moment, and I'm not getting much sleep. So.
Well, congratulations on the newborn.
Thank you. She's 4 months old now, so not exactly a newborn anymore. But between the two of us, we sort of get, one human worth of sleep. So
excellent. How you doing, Ray?
Oh, pretty good. How are y'all doing?
Doing okay.
Yeah, it's laundry day for me, so I'm doing lots and lots of laundry.
I wish I had an organized laundry day. I just realized when things hit a critical mass, let's say, and that's when I need to do laundry.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Right.
So it's an unscheduled laundry day. It's just, you have to do it.
Yeah, laundry days when, I have no clothes left. So.
You don't want to pull a Gavin and go on stream without any clothes on.
It's so weird. I recently read an article, and it has made me subconscious about myself. The article was saying that there's people talk out of one side of their mouth more than the other. So every time I look at myself, I look and I'm like, oh, I'm smiling out of one side of my face, and it's now messing with my head.
Dude.
One trick, Tobin, is I look at everyone else except myself. I actually forget I'm there because I just my brain refuses to watch myself, I think, and it helps.
I think
usually
that's
I go back afterwards and think, fuck me. I should have been paying attention.
No, I've been the same thing with this idea thing, right? Ever since people started pointing out, I say idea with the end. It now becomes like this little man in the back of my head, hitting my head, going, "Hey, did you know you're doing this? You never knew that you were doing this, but guess what? You're doing this." And then I started crying. Yeah, it's been a thing for me over the last couple of days, and now I just have to move through it. I got to move through it, man.
It's okay. It's okay, man. It's part of your identity. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know.
You can be the comedian who says "idea" instead of I something else. So,
right.
So you're gonna keep.
It'll come off as really nice.
You're not gonna, because this is your chance. Like your brain's at that point where it's becoming. You're so aware of it now that you could go either way. You could stop.
I think as long as you're not saying "idea" in the headlights, you'll be fine.
I see what you did there. That's very good. I really tried saying the word without the R at the end. I really tried saying it a couple of times, and it just doesn't sound right to me.
People make fun of me for the way I say about here in Canada, and South Park always says we pronounce it a boot, which I find is hilarious.
Yes, that is that is how we like to characterize you Canadians. With your lousy healthcare all a boot.
We're okay with that. We're just glad South Park notices us.
That's how I know Randolph's not a real Canadian. His face is connected.
Right.
Hey, the Rage, you better be careful when you're out and about. I hear the Mexican staring frog of southern Sri Lanka has been hanging around your part of the world.
Really?
What's this?
Need to find one.
Oot and a boot? What?
South Park having fun exaggerating. They get most things right about Canada. The part they got wrong is Saddam Hussein has never run our country, but everything else they seem to be right about.
Saddam Hussein hasn't run your country yet.
Or that you know of.
Right.
I love how
I was
informed
on-
you are, Andy.
I was on an internet chat room there somewhere on a subreddit, and I heard that Saddam Hussein secretly, is running Canada. From behind the scenes.
I've heard this. Yeah. Haven't been able to verify it.
Right.
So
Well,
it's
you
a
don't
very
need to-
well-kept secret in that case.
You don't have to verify it as long as you get enough people to agree with you, because that's verification in itself.
That's true.
I was someone sent me this. I won't say who, because that could get me into trouble. But a friend of mine who's much smarter, much more educated than I am, sent me an article saying about how millennials are reading a lot. They are reading a lot of news articles. They are doing it long form reading, right? And then they go, oh, that's positive, and then go down a little bit further. And it's like they don't look at traditional media sites, though. They get most of their news from Twitter, Facebook, and Medium. And I'm going, oh, you had my hope. You had me hoping there for a minute. And then right in the heart.
Yeah, I don't think it's just not the same. Like when you say reading, I imagine you're picking up a book and you're reading a book. That's what reading is to me.
Me too.
Yeah. There is a dramatic difference from me reading a 3-minute article on on like the Guardian site, for an example, and then me picking up a book and like sitting down and having to like focus my brainy parts for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I mean, when I read Marvel articles on Facebook, it's like I'm not reading; I'm just taking a shit and reading a Marvel article.
So your hypothesis is it is something else and reading. It is like, and reading is just in addition to whatever activities that's going on.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm reading the history of Western philosophy right now. That's reading.
Oh, dude, that is, especially if it's written by a philosopher.
Yeah,
That's
it's Bertrand Russell.
Bertrand Russell. Yeah.
I'm learning.
Smart guy.
I'm making myself smarter because all the Christians think I'm dumb.
I will tell you this: these silly little books, The Simpsons and Philosophy, Star Wars and Philosophy, and of course our favorite here, I'm sure, on this show, South Park and Philosophy.
Hey, that looks like a promising title.
You need Star Trek and philosophy.
There is, of course, also Star Trek and philosophy. And mind you, I have real philosophy books here, mind you. But in terms of something that's an easy read, that's accessible, that gets you a nice introduction, and I have no sponsors on the show except for my patrons and members. So I'm not getting paid for pitching these books.
Hang on, what do you mean that South Park 1 isn't a philosophy book? It looks pretty real to me.
Yeah, yes, it is real. And the articles are really good too. So I do recommend it to people if you want a nice intro to certain ideas.
Is that a South Park philosophy book written by Trey Parker or Matt Stone, or?
Well, they are typically compilations of
Okay.
philosophers writing
Okay.
about South Park. So, yeah, there's how many articles are there? There's like 22 articles with names like Satan, Lord of Darkness, and South Park Cosmology. There's
That
Dan's,
sounds grand.
there's Dan's Future Self and Evil Cartman, Personal Identity in South Park. And well, here's another one: Osimo and the Possibility and Implications of Artificial Intelligence.
Of course, that's perfect.
All written by legit philosophers.
They got any topics on beer in there? I'm just curious.
Oh, well, that's a good question. That's a good question.
I'm thinking for the audience benefit because I don't drink, but
Well, you know, there is one about the Republic of South Park, and we all know this one: the Invisible Gnomes and the Invisible Hand, South Park and Libertarian Philosophy. So, yeah, definitely a good series of books there.
wow.
Yeah, I might have to check out that South Park one. I usually often enjoy books like that. Like one of the most enjoyable books I've ever read was The Tao of Winnie the Pooh.
Oh yeah, dude.
Fantastic book.
Tiddly Palm, man. That's what it is. It's all about, you know, this Tiddly Palm is like basically the snowball effect. Small things become large over time. And the Tao of Pooh. Yeah, I read that.
Who are your
long time
favorite?
ago.
Who are your favorite philosophers? Everyone.
I really don't know because I've never really put much stock in philosophy. I just based on a little bit of what I've read, I'm not sure. It would probably be later philosophers that aren't so religiously influenced, but I
More
haven't gotten.
contemporary ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet.
I'll tell you, I'm going to sound like a basic philosophy bitch right now, but I'd say Nietzsche is very quotable, especially during his later period when he's getting a little, you know.
I like Nietzsche. I find there's an interesting. I've noticed an interesting divide between people who take him in. If people like a lot of people find him quite depressing, but a lot of people don't. The ones I find who, in particular, find him depressing are those who believe there's an afterlife.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of so far in my study, and I'm just really starting it. I always said, I kind of consider philosophy flawed because it seems to me that not only philosophy but society is infected with religion, right? And as I'm reading this history and really starting to look at lectures and stuff, you realize that premise is correct. That philosophy really stems out of theism, albeit a very ancient form of theism.
I don't know if you can see the title. This is my copy of Thus Spake. See, it isn't. See, I just don't do
That
crappy
Nietzsche?
jokes on this channel. I do things. I read books. And this is a well-worn book, too. Thus Spake, Zarathustra.
I read that when I was like 17. I need to reread it.
Worth your time. And, of course, here's my well-worn copy of, I don't know if you can see it, Mark Aurelius's Meditations, too.
Yeah, I have his How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. So I'm like trying to resist the urge to start reading that one now because that's the one I want to read.
I will say this about Marcus Aurelius, is that people can walk the walk, but it's difficult to talk the talk. I mean, it's different. It's easy to talk the talk, and it's difficult to walk the walk. Walk the talk? Let me continue. I'm mixing up my metaphors here, my analogies. But, the reason why he was the last of the good emperors, because there was like this group of 5 emperors considered to be the good emperors, sandwiched in between horrible emperors, right, as the name would kind of imply. And the reason why he was the last of the good emperors is because he had a blood heir and who was completely incompetent, Commodus. And if Marcus Aurelius really lived, I think there's no philosophy that can prevent us from fucking up, right? And Marcus Aurelius is definitely someone that we shouldn't be putting up on a pedestal, because when it came to be the most important decision in his life, he dropped the ball.
Wait, I thought he didn't give it to Commodus. I thought he gave it to Maximus. Oh, sorry, movie.
I see what you did there. Yeah.
I find like the big names like Aristotle and Plato, of course, are very important, and others. I like Friedrich Nietzsche a lot. I also enjoy Arthur Schopenhauer, particularly his Art of Controversy. That one is a very important one, I think, for anybody involved in debates to read. It's still quite valid even today, even though I think it was published in the early 1800s, if I recall correctly. Another one that I really like is Sun Tzu Bingfa. He's a Chinese philosopher. And a lot of people, unfortunately, mischaracterize him as a military theorist, but he was actually a practicing general. And he was highly successful in the strategies that he put into place. The translations, unfortunately, I'm very dissatisfied with, because nearly all the translations, they mistranslate a reference to understanding the sky above as part of understanding environmental conditions. They mistranslate it as heaven, but he was actually not religious at all, and they didn't even have that concept, I think, a lot of people back then. And he was definitely referring to the sky and the environment and what's going on. There's a part where he talks about how foreknowledge cannot be elicited from spirits. So I think if anything is to show that he's not religious, that would definitely be one of the things that he talks about. I think he was talking about dealing with managing spies at that time when he was referring to that.
Right.
Yeah, I do like the
name that I keep on hearing pop up in different places. I think I need to read on him some. I think I would really like to pick up newer books on philosophy. I don't really have a book that I've ever read that was based on philosophy.
Yeah, well, from my research, they say you can pretty much start wherever you want. I think a lot of people put pressure on themselves to start at the beginning and to learn it, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is start at the beginning. I'm going to be starting with Plato and moving on to Aristotle, but I think you can start anywhere. It's just about starting. I do like the quote from Bertrand Russell's introductory, that religion deals in absolutes and science deals in answers, and in the middle you have philosophy with all the questions. I like that quote, and I'm trying to keep that quote as I'm going through this, because I want to learn as much as I can, and I don't think you can do that if you're biased towards it. So I'm trying to get rid of my bias and trying to come at it with an even-keeled temperament.
Sure.
Do you think you're muted, Tobin?
He knows he's muted.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
He owns the muteness. He owns it in his heart.
Knock, are you sort of at the same time as, like you said, you're doing Plato first, and are you also teaching yourself the language and the terminology? Mm-hmm. I know you already sort of, you have a good grasp, I think, of fallacies and things that come up in debates a lot. But
yeah, I got most of what I know about fallacies came from watching Rationality Rules videos. I'm not gonna lie.
And that's a legitimate way of learning. I mean,
He's really he understands them. So like whatever you think about him, if you want to learn fallacies, he'll break them down to you.
Just being able to pick out the fallacies as they're coming in real time, that is so important, so that you can pivot and say, well, I see what you did there, and let me tell you why you're wrong.
Yeah, no, a lot of people don't like him because of his stance on trans athletes, and really I don't either. But when it comes to fallacies, I think he's probably one of the best. If you're not philosophy minded and don't have an understanding of them like I was able to listen to him, and then even though I'm not philosophy minded, I'm not going to let you just get away with a fallacy either, because I understand what they are.
Now, hang on, didn't Stephen Woodford, Rationality Rules, didn't he correct that?
Yeah, he did. I mean, he at least made the attempt, which I appreciated. A lot of people, they have whatever opinions they have.
I feel like it was unfair how he was treated for a lot of it. I'm curious about. I wanted to mention before we moved on to all that stuff. Like when we come to fallacies, it's good to know them, but I think it's better to know them conceptually And when I'm in debates, and I've been in quite a few, there's been, I'm looking forward to more in the future. I don't say, oh, that's a fallacy you've committed. Most of the time, I'm going to talk about the issue itself instead, because I think just saying, oh, that's a fallacy, and listing what they are kind of is boring in debates and kind of detracts from the debate.
I do hate it when it becomes about the fallacies and not the conversation.
Yeah. So speaking of conversation, I put in the private chat here that one of my favorite quotes from philosophy.
Oh,
is
yeah.
Aristotle. It is the mark of an enlightened mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. And one of the reasons this is so important is because a lot of the time I find in conversations with theists in particular, they'll say, oh, you have to judge whether or not a deity exists. Once you've heard the concept, you can't help but judge it. I'm thinking, how do you know more about my way of thinking than I do? Why do you assume that I must make a decision on things? And I think I agree with Aristotle on this point.
Yeah.
And I get that a lot, especially now that, like, you know, Christians understand philosophy is a weak point with me. That's what they come in and they immediately try to use philosophy to tell me how I think, and I'm like, you can't possibly understand how I think or what I know. And the only reason you do that really is to justify to yourself your own deficiencies when it comes to your thought process.
It's an arrogance. It's an arrogance to be like, oh, I know how you're gonna think because I know all these routes of, you know, these different sets of philosophy, and there's no way you could know anything else. It's an arrogance, like, I know all of the philosophies of, and that's just.
Yeah, and my opinion is, even if you're right, like a true philosopher is not going to beat you up with it. He's going to try to teach you, not beat you. You know, and that's I think the difference.
A properly educated philosopher is going to know that that's an area of neuroscience, not philosophy so much.
There's a difference between being a polemicist, a strict polemicist. In other words, someone's just arguing a point just to argue the point, and a person who's doing philosophy. And so philosophy is like this open-ended kind of discussion. Sure. While you know, a strict polemicist is just going to be there and just try to win and do dirty tricks.
Yeah, so, I will tell you a history of.
Tammy, were you going to say something? I'm sorry. I think I spoke over you before.
Oh yeah, I think I might have been cutting over you too. Go ahead.
I'm just blown away that Aristotle was debunking fucking Christians way back then.
Yeah.
Like when I read as soon as I read it, I was like, oh my God, that's every single Christian I come against.
Muslims too.
Well,
Muslims are doing this too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just don't really come up against Muslims.
I find it interesting. The Kalam cosmological argument comes up from Muslims, I believe. And Christians have taken it and almost practically made it their own.
Well, it started as a Christian concept, but the Muslims took it and redefined it and made it a much better argument, and that's why it's called Kalam.
Forgive my ignorance.
But the cosmological argument existed before that, but they took it and they made it better, and that's why it's called the Kalam.
So Ray, just give the basic outline of Kalam.
Okay, go ahead. I was going to read from Rational Wiki, but okay, you go ahead.
Either one of you guys take it away.
All right, so Rational Wiki talks about Kalam cosmological argument as being the following syllogism: everything that comes into being must have a cause. Wait a sec. That's here we go. Everything that exists or begins to exist has a cause of its existence. The universe exists began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause of its existence. So that's what they're basically claiming, those three things. And the first syllogism, the first premise, of course, is making an assumption and committing the black swan fallacy. So
that's what I was going to say. I believe it's the black swan fallacy. Yeah, I reject the first premise altogether, and that's like, you know, like when people tell me, "Oh, you don't understand philosophy, you can't talk to Kalam." I'm like, yeah, you don't have to understand philosophy to reject a premise. And that first premise, it's a direct assumption, you know.
And the beauty of a syllogism is you can reject. All you have to do is reject any one of the premises, and you can throw away the whole syllogism. they have to start again. And you can't say, well, it all. I heard this on the Atheist Experience one time. A caller called in, and they rejected the first premise of some syllogism, and then the caller went on to say, well, it all hinges on the second premise. And I think Tracy Harris was in that one. No, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works. You see, you're building an argument, and if your foundation is wrong, it just doesn't. It just doesn't work.
It boggles my mind because I'm dumb as two bricks, but I can clearly see as soon as you said the first premise, it's just a giant assumption.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with this kind of rationalist style of philosophy is that it is not well connected to data or what's in the real world. A philosophy professor once told me this quote is that he had a philosophy professor who said this, and it's like, the problem with something that you can't sense is that it's nonsense. And I'm sorry for the joke.
Oh, that was good. That was clever. That was good wordplay. Yeah, and then the thing about I find particularly strange about the Kalam is that many people pushing it are claiming that it proves God, but the syllogism doesn't connect those dots.
No, it doesn't. That's a leap.
Yeah.
That's a leap of faith.
How is it
Leap
not
of faith,
the
yes.
cosmological argument? What's the difference? How is it not the cosmological argument? What am I not understanding?
It is the cosmological argument. The kalam just means words or spoken words or something like that in Islam.
Well, the reason why it's true is because it has 5 syllables, cosmological. So that means if you throw a 5-syllable word on anything, it just increases its value.
My name has 5 syllables. Randolph Richardson.
Well, that's why you're here on this open room, Randolph Richardson.
But I'm going to disappoint you. My middle name is Christopher, so that brings it up to 8.
That's even better. That's far better.
Yeah, what I find funny about it is, William Lane Craig, he's adopted that as his main argument and his proof of the Christian God. And now we have Khalil Allah going around using it as his proof of the Muslim God. And they're both the same God, whatever. You have your Hindus going around saying that the Puranas is the proof of God because they were accurate to a certain degree on the age of the universe. It's like every religion has their proofs, quote unquote, of God, and yet none of them do. And that's the pretty much the conundrum of the situation that we find ourselves in. And most people, now that we're in the modern world and they can understand justifiable thought, they have to rationalize their way out of that. And I think a lot of people use philosophy to do that.
I have opinions after watching the interview with Oz last night and Khalil.
I saw part of that. Yeah, most of that I saw. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Oh, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
He said this pretty much to the effect of that he can't show evidence of a God. He's not convinced because he's been made aware of, like, that God has not revealed himself. That's what he said. God has not revealed himself to him.
Yeah.
He's not I don't know. I kind of think the dude is playing the field.
Oh, yeah?
Could be. I didn't see most of it. Like, I popped in for the very end of it, and I saw, he was giving Oz the respect not to go to philosophy. Like, and I'm like, it kind of pissed me off because I'm like, you didn't give me that respect at all. Like I told you I didn't want to go to philosophy, and that's where you insisted on taking it. But whatever. I do plan on going back to watch the interview because I do find him to be reasonable. And I think that Islam definitely needs a liberal voice in it, as many as they can get. So if he's going to be that voice, I'm all for it.
And
I think like it's unfortunate that some people have been pushing very negatively against him. But it is what happens on all sides of the fences, right? So
well, once again, it's like what do you believe? How do your beliefs inform or steer your behaviors, right? Yeah. Once again, and I'm going to keep harping on this. Are you going to a mosque where women sit in the back of the bus? If you are, fuck you. It's as simple as that for me. It's as simple as that.
And that's how it is for me too.
I think that's a bit of a black and white view of it because
It is completely. I do not. I am not going to be complicit in making people second class citizens.
Oh, I agree with you on that. I
It's
totally
as
agree.
simple as
What
that.
I'm
And
about
if you,
to say-
and if a person is engaged in being complicit with making people second class citizens, then it's fuck you, basically.
Right, yeah,
And it is a
and I have a big
complete
problem
simplistic
with Islam. I have a big problem with Islam for this, but the thing is, I have a friend who I was talking with about a number of years ago. We just finished lunch. He's in, I think, a Catholic family, and because he ended up marrying somebody who is, and so we broached the subject of religion, and then I jokingly said to him, "Well, I'm glad you're not 100% Christian." He said, "Oh, why is that?" And I said, "Because you're not trying to kill me, because there's an edict in the Bible where you kill all infidels." And so he laughed, and then we're talking a bit, and I said, so he was thinking, I don't know what percentage of a Christian I am. I had to think about it. At the end of the ride back to his office, he came up with a number. He said it's about 55% believing it. He's compliant, 55% Christian. That's the number he came up with. And I thought, now this is interesting. And I think this is the case for a lot of people following their religions. When you have doctrines that have contradictory points, you're picking and choosing what parts you believe and what parts you don't. So it's not really possible for somebody to say they're 100% Christian when you've got contradictions in the Bible. And the same with Islam. So I think this is why I was kind of pointing out the black and white part of it, because this is how I look at it. It's how believers are taking a different amount of belief. Now, most Christians I speak with online will profess 99 or 98% or 97% or close to 100. Some will just say 100 blindly.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, it's about how you define about what a person can know, or how a Christian feels like they are a believer, right? So a person says, "I 100% believe in the things that I believe in." Yes, circular argument. So if they believe like in that form of Christianity that they're practicing, then they have to believe it at 100%. Though I do appreciate what you're saying, Randolph, and your tactic of separating them from their crazy belief system, because that's a way for them to get some kind of perspective.
And when I talk to Christians and Muslims and other religious people, what I'm finding is that there's a lot of variation on what they believe their religion represents. And from extreme people to very mild people to very easygoing and very liberal people who are following these religions. And some are quite skeptical too. But they'll make exceptions for their religions. The base fundamental thing for Christianity is a belief in God. They all have that in common, and things are varied all over the place elsewhere. Same with Islam. They all believe in Allah. The vast majority also are trying to live like Muhammad, but not all. But all of them are. So the belief in their deity is the fundamental baseline that I look at. So when I'm dealing with a religious person, the first thing when someone tells me they're Christian, okay, I know immediately they believe in their God. Now, all the other stuff, it depends.
You don't know. There's so many flavors, and like I mentioned before, John Loftus says there isn't a monolithic Christianity. There are many Christianities.
Yes,
like the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're monotheists.
Same with Islam. In my research, I've been able to identify 99 different denominations of Islam. Sunni and Shia are only two of them. There's Wahhabi as well. There's Ismaili. There's a whole bunch of them. There's one near the border of Africa, I forgot what the name of it is, where they believe that it's important for the men to cover up instead of the women. Islamic State hates them, by the way. Yeah,
that makes sense, because I've talked to Muslims, ex-Muslims, and the idea, again, that women have to cover up is to keep men from thinking about sin. But if you think about women thinking about sinning too, it would make sense for everyone to be covered up. But again, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, because I have a basic understanding about Islam, is the fact that just because you think about a thing doesn't mean it's a sin. The concept that you think about a sin and decide not to act on the sin is actually positive. God gives you a little check mark on the ledger. So
I think that there is hadith that says something along those lines. Like they're pretty much, writing down every action, everything that you do is judged and determined, something along those lines.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I've talked to Muslims and they said something along the lines where, people will go out of their way sometimes to do good things because they've done so many bad things, and they're trying to make sure they get into heaven, things like that. And yeah, to your point, because there's to your point, Randolph, there's a misconception because there's 4 schools of thought to Islam, that there's only like 4 denominations, and that's just not correct. There's so many different denominations and thought processes, and there's like really progressive Muslims that often get left out of the conversation, even by me. It's because they're not the dominant segment. But you have that in Christianity too. I was just watching God is Great. It's like there's this new reformation going on within Christianity to where they're really making an attempt to modernize the religion and make it acceptable for a modern world. And I'm like, if Christians do that, I'm all for it. I have no issues with that.
They're going to need a third testament. But yeah, actually, those 4 school of thought thing, that's interesting that comes up when I mention denominations. It sometimes comes up, and that was mentioned in yesterday's stream as well, in answer to my question that was read. There are actually more than 4 schools of thought. There are 4 main schools of thought in Islam, but all the denominations speak to the fact that there's more than 4 schools altogether. But it's just, it gets more micro rather than macro in that case.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely.
And I think the Muslim, there's there's a name that I'm trying to say right now. His name is not Malcolm X. Oh man, his name is damn it. He was down here in Houston. He's very popular Muslim, but
like
they have a
Louis
different
Farrakhan?
outlook than
Farrakhan?
Farrakhan.
Farrakhan.
I think
That's a pretty wacky form of Islam right there. That is just, that is an interesting form.
I wonder which denomination it is.
It's in that that's the one that Muhammad Ali joined, right?
No, that was Malcolm X's too. Yeah.
Yeah, Malcolm X. Nation of Islam. From what I understand, they're a lot of black supremacist aspects to them.
Yeah. 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 For me, Oh, go ahead, Tobin.
I was just gonna say I have spent some time with Muslim people of that faith. Like I had 2 younger friends from different families that I kind of got an understanding of them from. But anyways, sorry. No. I'd rather hear what you had to say.
I'm completely out of my mind now, which is okay. There'll be another stunning thought entering my mind any minute now.
I do think that more American Muslims are trying to become. It does seem to like they're trying to emulate Muslims in the Middle East, but I still think that there's a definitive difference between an American Muslim and a Muslim, say, born in a Middle Eastern country.
The further away you get from that cesspool of Saudi Arabia, typically the less radical people are. So if you could think of Saudi Arabia just like spewing out its oil wealth in these madrasas, like for an example, Tunisia, Morocco are less radical than like maybe Saudi Arabia. Then it's similar to like how Christianity was during the Middle Ages, right? The further away you get from Rome, the further away you get from the authority or the fundings, from the authority, the more lenient things can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I tend to agree with that. American Hindus don't seem to be as extreme as the Hindus in India, especially if you're like familiar with the political climates going on in India right now. Like the religion is going pretty crazy over there.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It seems to have erupted since there have been quite a few Muslim groups there trying to get really strong into the politics. So I think what we're mainly seeing there is more reactionary than anything.
Yeah. Modi, the prime minister over there, you talk to a lot of people from the subcontinent who are Hindus who are over here because, MIT is right down the street and there's a lot of, people from the subcontinent over here going to Harvard and going to MIT. And they will share stories about crazy stuff going on about Hindu nationalism. And it's a story that we really don't hear enough of over here.
Well, yeah, and like I don't think you can't have like the caste system can't really do some of the things that happens in India. I can't remember their name, but they're basically ghosts.
Dalits,
lowest caste, the lowest
Dalits.
caste. Yeah, it's
The Untouchables.
pretty horrendous. Yeah, the Untouchables. And I was
Well,
talking with a Hindu on Modern Day Debate. It was like a three-way debate: a Christian versus an atheist versus a Hindu.
That's
And,
nice.
you know, both of them came at the atheist, of course. That always happens. But I was talking with him, and a lot. He was kind of like just like denying that, and I'm like, that's the difference between an American and an Indian Hindu, because Indian Hindus, you can't deny it because you see it. It's part of life. To where here you can't, you do that, you're going to go to jail.
They're denying the caste system is alive and well in India.
No, here in America, he was pretty much saying that it wasn't.
Yeah, there's a politician made some noise about that, claiming that it's been outlawed and it's
Well,
completely.
it has been officially outlawed, and the new term for the
But it's still
Untouchables, they're called Dalits. That's the name of the group,
Yep.
Dalits,
Yep.
and that's within the last 10 years, I think, because
Yeah.
Untouchables was just a horrible term for them.
But the thing is, people I know from India tell me that the caste system is alive and well. They just
Sure it is.
don't want to bring public, don't want to bring it in the public spotlight anymore. It's human rights. It's systemic violation of human rights, is what the caste
Yeah, it
system
is.
is.
It is. It
It's
is
disgusting.
pernicious and baked into that society, like white supremacy is here.
And it has Vedic roots, and Hinduism has roots in Vedism. So does Buddhism to some degree, and early Buddhism also has a lot of sexist ideals and things in there that most Buddhists ignore these days.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what I like about Buddhism is once you get into the practice of it, you can pretty much make it whatever the hell you want it to be. I was a atheist Buddhist for a couple years.
Chinese
and-
Buddhism. Chinese Buddhism is really quite open that way. It is still when people tell me Buddhists are all atheists, I know that's not true, because
No,
I know
yeah,
Buddhists-
definitely.
You go to the temple, they got deity statues all over the
Yeah.
place. The
Yeah.
Guan Yin is one of the most well-known goddesses, and the Happy Buddha is one of the most well-known male gods. It's just
Oh yeah.
it's,
You have a very harsh pedophilia problem within the Buddhist monk
Yes, you do.
systems as well.
Yes, you
just
do.
like you do with any religion.
It seems as if
Problem
you have
in
some
mosques,
kind of.
problem in the churches. Sorry, carry on.
It's almost as if you have this kind of system that isn't open to the public to see what's going on inside it. The secret kind of society, it just breeds this kind of behavior.
It's
Yeah.
like a black box. You don't know how it works internally.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it draws that type of character because they're drawn to the power that they're going to have over.
I think
over
the
people.
reason that a lot of the child molesters, and I differentiate them from pedophiles, the child molesters are the ones who actually take action. The pedophiles are the ones who
Yeah,
just
yeah.
think about
I
it.
should have differentiated it. Yeah.
But and the reason I differentiate is because if a pedophile wants help, they should be able to seek help without getting into trouble for it, because they're being preventive. But nonetheless, the child molesters are attracted to these positions of clergy and whatnot because they know it's going to get them access to children that's unsupervised. And that's where the danger is, with these churches having a culture of being overly trusting of certain people.
Yeah, and it's not just churches. That's why we had such a bad problem in daycares for so long.
Yep.
In this country.
Yeah.
I've worked with offenders, and I can't say anything about it, but they definitely gravitate towards resource-rich areas. I guess that's a euphemism. They just gravitate towards jobs and positions that they can be close to kids.
It's a natural attraction for them, I guess. And,
Oh yeah.
And it is a problem that goes. I say it all the time on my channel. It goes across all demographics. You have atheists out there doing nasty shit,
Craig
and
Hicks.
usually, if somebody's abused, it's by a family member or a close friend of the family, a person of trust
Yes.
over that person. So
Yeah, it's down to the individuals doing this and finding some way to sneak it in or justify it. And what's important is the community around them is taking it seriously. And when I look at organizations like the Vatican and seeing them moving clergy around out of
definitely.
jurisdictional reach of the law, that's becoming that makes them complicit after the fact, at the very least, in my view. So that's
Oh, yeah.
not helping to
It's
eradicate
the harboring. It's the
Facilitating.
harboring of
harboring
them
and
that
facilitating.
makes
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a poison that really needs to be taken care of. They need to be working with authorities instead of against them.
Sure enough. How you
Hello,
doing,
B?
B?
Hi, B.
Hi. How are
Pete, how long were you
I'm
down
not
the
even
road?
awake yet. This is my first cup.
Were you here in the backstage for long? Because I just kind of like looked down. It's
No,
like, oh,
like 20
no.
seconds. You're fine. I'll wait.
Excellent.
I don't
Wow.
care.
You're
Excellent.
so efficient,
You
Dan.
can leave me there for 20 minutes and I just listen to the conversation. It's fine.
Awesome.
Yeah, you came
awesome.
into
Well,
some
I'm glad to
heavy
hear.
conversation here.
Well,
Good
I
thing
just
you got
wanted to
your
say, I think not that the religion was created or maybe created. It didn't end up being a good thing, but every religion has a piece of it that is good. Like,
Sure.
the problem is that the indoctrinated assholes change it into something fucking horrible. That's the problem I see with it.
Would you say
The basis
what would-
of be good to one another, blah 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 blah. That's good ways to raise your children. Those are good, basic. If you don't know what the fuck to do with your kids, yes, you should do those common things. But then you get past that, and it turns into a big pile of shit.
I could agree that
forgiveness,
it's
for
well intended.
example.
I wouldn't necessarily say good.
Well, yeah,
Um,
well intended. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
What are you gonna say, Sammy?
Like, take forgiveness, for example. We all think that's a fantastic thing to be able to do. But when you take it to the level of, as long as a person seems repentant, you'll forgive them, and that's all the punishment they need, if any. That's when something good becomes not good.
Yeah, it goes
Becomes
sideways.
sweeping it under the rug. It doesn't resolve the problem. Like, I recently was talking with somebody who I'd blocked on Twitter, and then I unblocked him because we had a conversation. First thing I said to him is, I'm not looking for an apology. Let's figure out how to resolve this. And
Yeah.
so we had a good conversation for about 45 minutes. It's resolved.
Good for you.
I didn't require an apology. An apology would be, accepting an apology to me would seem like sweeping it under the rug in that scenario.
Mm.
So yeah, this whole idea of forgiveness, and then they take it to an extreme in Christianity with vicarious redemption with Jesus. You're forgiven for all your sins. Well, it's like, who cares about the victim? God is forgiving you. To me, this is a problem. This is not ethical.
No, not at all. Not at
Yeah,
all.
well, I think that there are plenty of good religious people out there that live in the modern world and understand that, there can be modern. You can see these archaic gods in new lights, right? Like I was talking about God is Gray, and just looking at some of her work over the last few days and how she's able to take some of the worst passages in these holy texts and really go at other Christians about how, hey, this might be what they meant back then, but we got to apply this to how it might mean today. And she can sit there and tell you with a straight face that being gay is not a sin, and having a healthy sexual life is not a sin, and touching yourself is not it's what I think Christianity and any religion really does in the face of these modern times, because you're dealing with archaic text. You've got to be able to modernize it in your mind, or you're going to have bad results.
You know what's easier than modernizing it is just kind of saying, okay, that thing's sorely outdated. Look at the fundamental.
Yeah, well, I agree with that, Richard.
The fundamental says, look, then you don't have to make excuses. You just start with a new standard. It's easy. But
It's interesting for a broader question about the full court press kind of strategy about how to deal with radical fundamentalists or evangelicals, about having Protestant Christians talking to them. That's fine. I am not going over there to shit on them. I'm not going to go over to a progressive Christian channel and start trouble with them. If that's what they're doing, they're fighting my cause basically, and all the more power to them. So that doesn't mean I'm still not going to be an anti-theist.
The fundamental, and that's
Exactly.
fine. Everyone's got the freedom to believe or not believe or take a position, and I think that's fine. It's when people are trying to present their position as reality or trying to convince others to believe in it, that's where burden of proof and stuff like that starts to come into play. Now, the fundamental problem I see with religion is that, the whole basis is that the threat of punishment is how they keep everybody in line. And we know that that is not the way to run a society in these modern times. And that's why I say religions are so sorely outdated, because there are much better ways to kind of encourage people to have.
Well, they do seem to do two things, right? I mean, one is that they disconnect you from data, from what actually goes on in the real world, and figuring out what's real. And two, it blocks you. It blocks you from being compassionate. It blocks that basic hominid instinct that chimpanzees and great apes have of being compassionate to other entities, to other beings. And those two things, when mixed together, it is horrible. It is a mash. That's what it is.
Yeah, and there's different ways to encourage people to do things well, and punishment isn't always. It turns out is very often not the right solution. Rehabilitation and other things better. It's much superior methods now.
If you look at the psychological literature, it is clear that punishment has very limited uses, and that it's all about incentivizing good behavior.
Yeah. And there's probably even better ways than that. And as we continue to discuss these things and experiment in society, we find better ways, and whereas religion seems to lock people into this old way of, no, everything's got to be punishment based. And it's
yeah.
That's one thing.
Gotta download that fear. Gotta download that fear, man.
I've definitely used a different tactic than my parents used on me with my child. I've never spanked her. I've never done physical violence on her.
Same here.
I try to incentivize her. Yeah, and she's a great kid. Like everybody's like, she's gonna be spoiled rotten. No, it never happened. That's a myth. You don't have to beat your children for them not to be spoiled.
Yeah, you don't have to beat your children in order to discipline them. Exactly. Yeah. I always said, Rage, that like with my kid and my nieces and nephews, and I have a lot of them. I used to give them a little pat on the butt when they were in diapers to get their attention. Never beat them. Pat on the butt. By the time they were out of diapers, they respected me. I never had to do anything after that. They respect me to this day because I drew the line with them when they were little.
I've been accused, it's because I only had one kid, and I spoiled her, and I didn't want to hurt her. No, it's like I saw the effects that my father had on me. We were terrified of my dad. We were terrified, and I didn't get a lot of whippings as a kid, but when I got them, you remember every single one you got.
I got them all the time. My dad used to call it. He was Navy. He would say front and center.
Yeah, my dad was Army.
And we would have to line up in a position of attention, oldest to youngest, and we'd wait to see who got beat. And he'd have a belt in his hand, an old 70s belt with holes in it.
He never got like that, but he used the belt.
My dad was in the real military. He was Army. No offense.
No. I went in the Army, so thank you for that. Yeah, the Navy sucks. But
my dad definitely wasn't that bad, but he used that thick leather belt and with the holes in it, and you did when you got one, you didn't sit down for a while. And my brother, he was kind of like a child genius, just like super smart, so he got super bored in class and he was always getting in trouble, so he got the brunt of it. I was reading books all the time. I didn't get in trouble too much.
There's the benefit of being a younger child in a group.
Well, he was my brother was the youngest, but he was just always getting in trouble at school, man. That like he knew everything the teachers were already teaching, so it's like he just started talking to motherfuckers. So he was always getting in trouble in school.
Did he play pranks too that he didn't get caught for?
He usually got caught for just about everything.
Oh, okay.
My middle brother liked to do the old, I did something wrong, and then he would go tell my mother or my dad that I did it.
Sweet.
And so I would get beat for stuff that I wasn't even there for.
I was like the perfect little child because I just sat in my own little world right up until my teenage years when I just went crazy with rebellion, and that's when I became a hellion. Yeah.
I was more covert. I would plan out these pranks and I would execute them, and I got caught for nearly all of them. I did not get caught for. Very few I got caught on, and it was always some stupid fluke chance that I got caught. So
yeah.
I'm not saying I didn't do anything wrong.
All the damn time. I couldn't fucking sneeze wrong.
One of my elementary schools, the prank I did, it ended up with the teachers being worried that there were poltergeists in the school. I go home, ask my dad, "What's a poltergeist?" So he explained to me, and then his mistake was not asking me, "Why are you asking me this?"
Shit. I saw that movie when I was a kid, and it scared the shit out of me. And I was terrified of poltergeist throughout my childhood because of that stupid ass movie.
Oh, I was just gonna say my older brother used to because our parents were strict, obviously. He had to take me everywhere that he would go, and he was always getting in trouble. So they kind of used me as like a, I don't know, a watchdog because I'd dub on him. I was only little, but whatever he was going to do, he'd get me to do it as well. So if they were smoking, for example, he'd make me have a smoke, and then say, "If you dub on me, I'll dub on you."
That's genius.
That's
I always
smart.
dubbed on him, and I just told Mum he forced me to have one, and he would get in more trouble. So,
See, what my brothers used to run around doing stuff, and I would follow them because once my sisters were out of the house, because I hung out with my sister Susan all the time, we were inseparable. So when she went off to college, I was bored. I didn't know what to do, so I'd follow them around, and I caught them huffing gas. Asked them what they were doing. They said, "This is for boys. Go away." And I said, "Okay, I'll go ask Mom if I could do it," because I knew they were doing something wrong. I'm not stupid. And they'd say, "No, come here, huff the gas, huff the gas." You know, I caught them chewing tobacco, smoking cigarettes, looking at porn, and all of it. I said, "I'll go ask Mom if I can do it." And they would, come here, chew the tobacco, smoke the pot. I don't care, just don't tell Mom. So I was a little blackmailing shit by the time I was about 8 or 9 years old.
Speaking of your brothers, I saw Richard kind of running circles around one way this morning. It's what I woke up to. It was pretty. It was a fun way to wake up.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Over on
he's
Fraser's
interesting.
channel. He's a
I
smart
love
guy.
talking to him about it because it's so different than the
Mhm.
normal Christian. Although I'm not on board with it. I mean, there's 5 or 10% that I go, "Oh, that's cool."
Well, I definitely think that-
could be plausible. You
Like,
know,
his idea that God is an alien. I think if the God of the Bible exists, it clearly says it's an alien. So I think that he's probably more accurate than most.
Are we
Yeah,
talking
I
about
agree.
Richard?
I mean,
Are we
I don't
talking
believe in
about Richard
aliens.
Richard Madsen.
Yeah.
Richard Madsen.
Oh.
He's a smart guy. I like him.
Yeah.
Talk about being untethered to data points. I think that's from my previous interaction with him. Yeah. He's an interesting fellow.
he is.
He gives
We're
straight
actually
answers.
supposed to
I
get
like him.
together on Saturday.
What's that?
Yeah,
I'm actually gonna get to hang out with Richard on Saturday. We're gonna have a talk.
Oh yeah, you'll have
Yeah.
fun, man. I've had about 18 or 19 one-on-ones with Richard.
Tobin
Yes,
already
he
And,
spoke with
I still don't understand, but I like it.
Tobin already spoke with Richard. This will be part 2. I'm looking forward to hearing that. He throws a
Yeah.
lot at you, Tobin. You got to keep the pace slower with him.
It's a
Um,
fucking gish gallop with that kid. And I fucking hate, I've gotten so angry during this hour-long conversation about Hinduism, Islam, and now it's about gish gallops. And I fucking hate people who do the gish gallop, man. It just
Speaking
boils.
of Gallop, let's talk about
I don't even
Dr.
know what that
William
is.
Craig again.
This is how much I know about debating. What is Gish Gallop?
Randolph,
It's
you want to
whenever
take it
you
away?
just keep
every
on
time
throwing a
Kent
bunch of
Havens
stuff at
speaks,
somebody and not letting somebody get their head around the first thing that they said.
Oh yeah, but see, with him, he's kind of like me. His brain works really quickly, so you just have to stop him.
Yeah.
If you say, "Hold
Yeah.
on, wait, let's talk about this for a second because I won't understand it," he'll go back and talk to you about it. It's
he's
just that
really
he'll
good
keep
about that.
everybody in my family. Our brains just work kind of fast, and you have to stop him, or he'll just keep going. But he's
think
pretty.
if
I mean,
you-
he's fair. He's fair, and he's. I mean,
He'll
he
do
gets angry sometimes, but for the most part, he's pretty patient, and he'll talk to you for hours. He'll talk to you for 8 hours if you want him to. He will.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And that's-
that dude can talk.
that'd be a
That's for
problem.
sure.
He can talk. He's
Yeah,
a
I
master.
owe
We
him-
can all talk.
I owe him a conversation. He's invited me on his channel. I haven't had a chance to do that yet. So he said he wants to talk with me about all kinds of subjects. I'm looking forward to that. I really like Richard.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
His artwork, I have
Yeah.
to give him credit for that. He is an artist.
I enjoy the Christian reaction to him. Like
Oh.
once they
I
really get
know.
into it. Like the Darth Dawkins reaction to Richard Madsen is the most classic ever. If you guys haven't seen it, you have to.
Dude,
It's
he just-
hilarious.
Darth just got mad and started calling him stupid and said he had mental issues because Darth didn't know what to say to him.
I know, it
Richard
was
went
so
beyond Darth's script, and
Yeah.
and Darth got mad, and Richard was totally like level and go, now Darth, now that's not fair. Now Darth, you're interrupting me. And
It
Darth's
was
over there
funny.
going, you're an idiot,
It
you're
was-
stupid. You don't know,
I had
you
to-
need
I
to
got
seek
to
mental
see that
health
one.
had-
therapy. You're
I had the same kind of encounter with Darth Dawkins, except he rage quit and then reacted afterwards. He even called me retarded, and he was so angry when he did it. And then people
Yes.
are asking me, "Oh, what do you think about that?" I said, "Oh, I think he's just mispronouncing my name because he's angry."
yeah, you said something about that last night. so funny. So funny.
Yeah, it was. I think probably the best one ever that I've seen. Anyway,
I look
There's-
forward to seeing it. Yeah.
There's a bunch of them, but yeah, it's the ones of what I've seen is probably the funniest and best one.
Yeah, it's
Interesting. All right, so we are heading down to an hour, gentlemen. I have to say that I'm not going to be doing Jenga today because I made a mistake and I scheduled Hemant to. I'm going to be interviewing Hemant on a Best Advice Ever episode, which I'm going to be releasing tonight or maybe tomorrow. I'm not really sure. So I won't be doing Jenga today, but I will. My normal schedule will be normal tomorrow. If that makes any sense, I'm doing stuff tomorrow. So yeah.
cool.
Awesome.
So, yeah. Well, you guys got anything going on?
I'm not sure if I'm gonna do something or not. Like, Matt Powell put out a 22-minute documentary on Columbine, but I just kind of covered that. So, I don't know. I might do something on God is Grey because I've just been really impressed with what I've seen from her, but I haven't decided yet. It'll be that or a video.
Cool. All right.
I'm presenting the Normalize Atheism campaign because and people can read about it at www.normalizeatheism.ca. We're with Canadian Atheists, which you can find out more about at www.canadianatheists.ca. We're trying to see atheism become normalized in Canadian society and hope that catches on around the world. Groups like TART have gone and really been strong at promoting this, which is wonderful. I love it. Their support has been phenomenal, along with other groups as well. And what's happening is in society, what I've been noticing is that when I tell people I'm an atheist, the religious people will sometimes react with shock and surprise or some sort of condescension, and that I need some help, I'm on the wrong path, and whatever, like it's not a normal thing. But when a theist says they believe in a deity or multiple deities, the typical reaction is, okay, carry on, life is normal. What I'm hoping for is that atheists can be recognized in the same way and get the same kind of response as theists do, that it's just normal, we'll just carry on in society. We're not asking for more, we're asking for less. And I think that this is a very gentle approach to use, and that's why I'm hoping it will be a success. So there's even a hashtag. It's all on the website there. So
Cool.
yeah, that's part of what we're doing. So
Awesome. All right. If that's it, then I guess we're going to wrap it up.
Andy,
Thanks everyone in the chat.
thanks for hosting. This is a lot of fun, and thanks to the whole audience.
I will see you guys tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on my channel for my history stream on Wednesdays.
Thanks.
Oh.
And now I'm
Yeah.
thinking about what side of my mouth I'm talking on. Now this is what I'm doing. I'm thinking about it on my mind. All right. Take care, everyone.
Later, y'all.